How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, April 11th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I plan on reviewing the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Saturday, April 10th, and of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. With the NFL season officially being over, of course, I'm going to start with the NBA, and with the NBA, I'm going to look out to yesterday's only primetime basketball game, and of course, this took place between the Los Angeles Lakers, the defending champs, and the Brooklyn Nets, the current holders of the best record, or one of the holders for the best record in the Eastern Conference. And in this matchup, the Lakers were able to beat the Nets 126-101 after they outscored the Nets by 22 points in the second half. For the Brooklyn Nets in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their goated power forward, Kevin Durant, who finished with 22 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and 8 turnovers in 24 minutes, as he shot 8 for 17 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Kyrie Irving, would finish with 18 points and 4 rebounds in 21 minutes as he shot 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. And then off the bench for the Brooklyn Nets, their elite power forward, Blake Griffin, would finish with 2 points and 2 assists in 17 minutes as he shot 0 for 3 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. For the Los Angeles Lakers, their leading scorer would be their starting center, Andre Drummond, who finished with 20 points and 11 rebounds in 22 minutes as he shot 8 for 15 from the field and 4 for 6 from the line. With this win, the Los Angeles Lakers, the defending champs, are now 33-20. That is the 5th best record in the Western Conference, as they have now won 5 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit a game and a half behind the 4th place Denver Nuggets, and they now sit a game and a half ahead of the 6th place Portland Trailblazers, as they currently trail the 1st place Utah Jazz by 7 games in the conference. Looking out to the East, the Brooklyn Nets are now 36-17. That they are now tied with the Philadelphia 76ers for the best record in the conference. Now that with this loss, they've still won 7 of their last 3 games. In the Eastern Conference playoff picture, both of these teams sit 3.5 games ahead of the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks to show where they are. Looking at the games that weren't on prime time, starting in Cleveland, the Cleveland Cavaliers hosted the Toronto Raptors. In this matchup, the Raptors would beat the Cavs 135-115. In the first half, they would go on to outscore the Cavaliers by 21 in the first quarter and by 12 in the second. They outscored them by 33 in the first half. For the Cavs in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard out of Alabama, Colin Sexton, who finished with 29 points and 5 assists in 35 minutes as he shot 10 for 20 from the field and 8 for 9 from the foul line on the night. For the Toronto Raptors, their leading scorer would be their starting guard out of Duke, Gary Trent Jr., who finished with 44 points and 7 rebounds in 33 minutes as he shot 17 for 19 from the field, 7 for 9 from 3, meaning he shot 10 for 10 from 2, and he still shot 7 of 9 from 3. He only missed 2 shots all day, and he made all 3 of his free throw attempts on the night. In what would be a career performance for him. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are now 21-32. That is the 5th worst record in the Eastern Conference, and with this win, they've only won 4 of their last 10. They currently sit 5 games behind the 8th place New York Knicks outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, as they currently trail the Sixers by 15 games in the conference. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are now 19-33. They are tied with the Washington Wizards for the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost 7 of their last 10. They sit 6.5 games behind the 8th place Knicks outside of the playoff picture, and they now trail the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets by 16.5 games in the Eastern Conference. Jumping out to Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City Thunder hosted the Philadelphia 76ers as the Sixers beat the Thunder 117-93, outscoring them by they outscored the Thunder by 12 in the first quarter, virtually carried that momentum through the end of the game. For the Thunder in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting power forward, Darius Bazley, who finished with 17 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 9 turnovers in 36 minutes as he shot 7 for 12 from the field and 3 for 4 from 3. For the Philadelphia 76ers on the night, their leading scorer would be their elite starting center, Joel Embiid out of Kansas. He finished with 27 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 blocks in 27 minutes, as he shot 10 for 17 from the field and 7 for 9 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their starting shooting guard Furkan Korkmaz would finish with 20 points of his own. He played in 31 minutes, and alongside his 20 points, he was also able to add 5 steals. He shot 7 for 13 from the field in those 31 minutes, 4 for 10 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line. And their elite starting point guard Ben Simmons would finish with 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists in 28 minutes, as he shot 5 for 9 from the field and 3 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 36-17. They are now tied with the Brooklyn Nets for the best record in the Eastern Conference, as they have now won 6 of their last 10 games. Alongside the Nets, they sit 3.5 games ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference. And with this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are now 20-33. That is the third worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 6 games. They are now tied with the Sacramento Kings for the worst losing streak in the conference. They currently sit 7.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the playoff picture, as they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 20 games in the Western Conference at the moment. Jumping out to Utah, speaking of, the Jazz hosted the Sacramento Kings and were able to beat the Kings 128-112, as they outscored Sacramento by 22 points in the second half in order to come from behind and pick up their 40th win of the season. They are the first team in the NBA this season to pick up 40 wins. For the Sacramento Kings, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard, De'Aaron Fox, who finished with 30 points, 8 assists, and 2 steals in 39 minutes, as he shot 11 for 20 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. And their starting center, Richaun Holmes, would finish with 25 points and 10 rebounds in 34 minutes, as he shot 10 for 13 from the field and 5 for 7 from the foul line. For the Utah Jazz, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell, who finished with 42 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in 35 minutes, as he shot 12 for 31 from the field, 3 for 12 from 3, and 15 for 17 from the foul line. Their all-star starting point guard, Mike Conley, would finish with 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists in 32 minutes, as he shot 8 for 14 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. Off the bench, their shooting guard, Joe Ingles, would finish with 20 points and 6 assists in 31 minutes, as he shot 6 for 11 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. And back to the starting lineup, their elite starting center, Rudy Gobert, would finish with 6 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 32 minutes, as he made both of his field goal attempts on the day, and he shot 2 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Utah Jazz are now 40-3, considering they're the first team in the NBA to hit 40 wins. They have the best record in the NBA as of right now. They've won their last 2 games. They've won 8 of their last 10. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit 2.5 games ahead of the second place Phoenix Suns, and they currently sit 27 whole games over the last place Minnesota Timberwolves, just to show how well they've been playing this season. With this loss, the Sacramento Kings are now 22-31. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference, as they have now lost their last 6 games, tied with the Oklahoma City Thunder for the worst streak in the conference. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 5.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the playoff picture, as they currently trail the first place Utah Jazz by 18 total games in the conference. Jumping out to Oakland, the Golden State Warriors hosted the Houston Rockets and were able to pull off a 125-109 win. Biggest difference coming in the second quarter, where they outscored Houston by 15, outscoring them 33-18. For the Rockets in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard from the Washington Wizards out of Kentucky, John Wall, who finished with 30 points, 2 rebounds, and 7 assists alongside 6 turnovers in 37 minutes, as he shot 11 for 19 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3, and 3 for 6 from the foul line. For the Golden State Warriors on the night, their leading scorer would be their goated starting point guard, Stephen Curry, who finished with 38 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists alongside 5 turnovers in 35 minutes, shooting 13 for 21 from the field, 8 for 15 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line on the night. Their starting small forward, former number 1 overall pick, Andrew Wiggins, would finish with 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 36 minutes as he shot 11 for 21 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. And off the bench for Golden State, their guard Jordan Poole would finish with 21 points and 3 steals in 25 minutes as the Michigan product shot 8 for 11 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are now 25-28. That is currently the 10th best record in the Western Conference win percentage wise. As with this win, they've only won 3 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 2.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies outside of the playoff picture, as they currently trail the Utah Jazz by 15 games in the conference. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 14-39. That is the second worst record in the Western Conference, and for that matter, that's actually the second worst record in the NBA. They have now lost their last 2 games. They've lost 8 of their last 10. They currently sit 13.5 games behind the 8th place Memphis Grizzlies as they trail the Utah Jazz by 26 total games in the Western Conference. Jumping out to Phoenix, the Phoenix Suns hosted the Washington Wizards as they were able to pull off a 134-106 win. The big difference would come in the second half. They would outscore Washington by 26 points. They outscored them by 20 in the third quarter. For the Wizards in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting point guard, Raul Neto. Raul Neto would finish with 24 points in 29 minutes, shooting 9 for 17 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line as he took Bradley Beal's place. Bradley Beal didn't play this game. But also for the Wizards, their elite starting point guard, Russell Westbrook, would finish with 17 points, 11 rebounds, and 14 assists alongside 5 turnovers in 33 minutes as he shot 6 for 17 from the field and 5 for 8 from the foul line. For the Phoenix Suns in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting shooting guard, Devin Booker, who finished with 24 points in 29 minutes, shooting 9 for 17 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. He would shoot 11 for 24 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Alongside him in the starting lineup, their elite starting point guard, 11-time All-Star Chris Paul, would finish with 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists in 25 minutes as he shot 6 for 11 from the field and made his only free throw of the night. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are now 37-15. That is the second best record in the Western Conference. They've now won 8 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now sit 2 games ahead of the third place Los Angeles Clippers, and they now sit 2.5 games behind the first place Utah Jazz in the conference. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are now 19-33. That is they are tied with the Cleveland Cavaliers for the third worst record in the Eastern Conference. They have now lost 6 of their last 10 games. They now sit 6.5 games behind the 8th place New York Knicks on the outside looking in as they currently trail the 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets by 16.5 games in the conference. Last but not least, jumping out to Portland, the Portland Trail Blazers were able to beat the Detroit Pistons 118-103 as they were able to outscore Detroit by 10 points in the first and third quarters respectively. For the Pistons in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting shooting guard out of Kansas, Josh Jackson, who finished with 21 points in 30 minutes, shooting 7 for 12 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line. For the Portland Trail Blazers in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their elite starting point guard, Damian Lillard, who finished with 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 10 assists in 34 minutes as he shot 9 for 20 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guards, CJ McCollum, would finish with 26 points in 31 minutes as he shot 11 for 21 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and he made his only free throw of the night. And the biggest performance for the Portland Trail Blazers would come from their starting center, Enes Kanter. He would finish with 24 points and 30 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 blocks in 37 minutes as he shot 9 for 26 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the Portland Trail Blazers are now 31-21. That is currently the 6th best record in the Western Conference as they have now won 6 of their last 10 games. In the Western Conference playoff picture, they now trail the defending champs 5th place Los Angeles Lakers by a game and a half in the Western Conference, and they currently sit a game and a half ahead of the 7th place Dallas Mavericks as they trailed the first place Utah Jazz by 8.5 games in the entire conference as a whole. With this loss, the Detroit Pistons are now 16-37, as they currently hold the worst record in the Eastern Conference and the third worst record in the NBA. With this loss, they've now lost 6 of their last 4 games. They sit 10 full games behind the 8th place New York Knicks outside of the playoff picture, and they now currently trail the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets by 20 whole games in the Eastern Conference. With that said, that is what the NBA is looking like after yesterday's games. Looking at today's game, starting with the primetime matchups at 3 o'clock, the Denver Nuggets will host the Boston Celtics on NBA TV. And then at 10 o'clock, the Portland Trailblazers will host the Miami Heat on NBA TV, as well as Damian Lillard and Jimmy Butler look to face off against one another. Outside of those games, at 1 o'clock, the Charlotte Hornets will host the Atlanta Hawks. At 7 o'clock, the Cleveland Cavaliers will host the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Orlando Magic will host the Milwaukee Bucks. At 8 o'clock, the New York Knicks will host the Toronto Raptors. At 8 o'clock, the Dallas Mavericks will host the San Antonio Spurs. At the same time, the Memphis Grizzlies will host the Indiana Pacers, and the Minnesota Timberwolves will host the Chicago Bulls. And last but not least, at 10 o'clock, the Los Angeles Clippers, who are currently sporting the third best record in the West, are going to host the Detroit Pistons, who currently hold the worst record in the East. So I don't know if this will end well. But that is what the NBA is looking like as we transition, as we stay within the arena, but of course transition to the ice, just to get a glance of what's going on in the NHL. And of course, quick disclaimer, every team in the NHL, or all the games in the NHL, have to be kept within the divisions to limit travel due to COVID. Starting north of the border, the Winnipeg Jets were able to beat the Montreal Canadiens 5-0, as they were able to pick up their 25th win of the season. With this win, the Winnipeg Jets now hold the second best record in the North Division, as they now trail the Toronto Maple Leafs by 6 points in the table. And then jumping out to Toronto, the Maple Leafs were able to beat the Ottawa Senators 6-5 as they scored 2 goals in each period. They were led by their young center, Austin Matthews, who had 3 goals and an assist of his own. With this win, like I said, they are now on a 6-game winning streak, which looks to be the best winning streak in all of hockey right now, and they're currently sitting 6 points ahead of the second place Winnipeg Jets in the division. Jumping out to Calgary, the Calgary Flames hosted the Edmonton Oilers and were able to pull off a 5-0 win to pick up their 17th win of the season. With this win, the Calgary Flames now hold the 5th best record in the North, as they now sit 22 points behind the Toronto Maple Leafs in the North Division. Jumping out east, the Philadelphia Flyers hosted the Boston Bruins in what looked like the only game that took place in the East Division yesterday. And the Philadelphia Flyers would go into the third period completely tied at 2, and they would pull off a 3-2 win, picking up their 19th win of the season. With this win, the Philadelphia Flyers now hold the 4th best record in the East Division, or the 5th best record in the East Division, as they now trail the Washington Capitals and the New York Islanders by 12 points in the table. Jumping out to the Central, the Dallas Stars hosted the Florida Panthers and were able to pull off a 4-1 win, as 3 of their goals came in the first period. With their 15th win of the season, the Dallas Stars now hold the 6th best record in the Central Division, as they now trail the Carolina Hurricanes and the Tampa Bay Lightning by 18 points in the table. Jumping to Charlotte, the Carolina Hurricanes hosted the Detroit Red Wings, and in a game that went to shootout, the Red Wings would pick up their 14th win of the season. With this win, they still sit at the bottom of the Central Division, as they now trail the Hurricanes and Lightning by 24 points in the table. Jumping out to Columbus, the Columbus Blue Jackets hosted the Chicago Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks were able to pull off a 4-3 win after scoring all 4 of their goals in the first 2 periods. And with this win, the Chicago Blackhawks picked up their 19th win of the season. They now sit 5th in the table, as they now sit 15 games behind the Hurricanes and the Lightning at the moment. Speaking of the Lightning currently sit at the top of the table as they beat the Predators 3-0 yesterday. With their 20th win of the season, they now sit alongside the Carolina Hurricanes at the top, as they take advantage of the Hurricanes' loss last night. Jumping out to the West, last but not least, the St. Louis Blues were able to come from behind and beat the Minnesota Wild 3-2 in overtime to pull off their 19th win of the season, led by their left winger Hoffman, who had 2 goals of his own. With their 19th win of the season, the St. Louis Blues now hold the fourth best record in the West Division as they now trail the Colorado Avalanche by 14 points in the table. And then last but not least, the Los Angeles Kings were able to beat the San Jose Sharks in San Jose 4-2 after they scored 3 of their goals in the second period. With their 16th win of the season, the Los Angeles Kings now hold the second worst record in the West Division as they now trail the Colorado Avalanche by 20 total points in the table at this moment. And looking forward to what's going on with the NHL today, starting with the primetime matchups. The only 2 games that'll be on primetime will be at 7 o'clock on ESPN Plus, as the New York Islanders will host the New York Rangers, and the Boston Bruins will host the Washington Capitals at the same time. Outside of those games, the Philadelphia Flyers will host the Buffalo Sabres, the Las Vegas Golden Knights will host the Arizona Coyotes, the Anaheim Ducks will host the Colorado Avalanche, the New Jersey Devils will host the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Nashville Predators will host the Dallas Stars. But that is what the NHL is looking like. Staying within the States, but of course shifting the momentum, shifting the focus to baseball for a second. Starting off in New York, the Marlins went to New York to face off against the Mets, and they were able to pull off a 3-0 win. Of course, Jacob deGrom would pitch almost flawless baseball, but the Marlins would pitch even better, holding the Mets to three total hits as a team. For the New York Mets in this matchup, the loss would go to their elite starting pitcher, Jacob deGrom, who allowed 1 earned run and 5 hits in 8 innings pitched as he struck out 14 batters. With this loss, he is now 0-1 on the season. And just looking at how their batters performed, their elite shortstop, Francisco Lindor, will go 0-3 as he struck out. Their elite first baseman, Pete Alonso, will go 0-4 as he struck out 3 times for himself. DeGrom would even get a hit. He was one of the 3 hits for the Mets all game. For Miami, their winning pitcher would be their starting pitcher, Trevor Rogers, who allowed no earned runs and only 3 hits in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 10 batters. He got the win because Jacob deGrom would give up a solo home run to Jazz Chisholm in the second inning. But Rogers, with this win, he's now 1-1 on the season. Looking at how the Marlins fared, their center fielder Starling Marte will go 2-4 with a run on the day. With this, Jazz Chisholm will go 1-3 with an RBI and a run as he hit his first home run of the season. And their second baseman Miguel Rojas would finish 2-4 with an RBI on the day. With this win, the Miami Marlins are now 2-6. That is the second worst record in the National League East as they now trail the first place Philadelphia Phillies by 3 games in the division. And with this loss, the New York Mets are now 2-3. They have the third best record in the NL East as they trail the Phillies by 1.5 games. Jumping out to Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Rays hosted the New York Yankees. As a team, the Rays were able to hold the Yankees to no runs at all, holding them to 5 hits as well to pick up their 4th win of the season. For the New York Yankees, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, of course, Domingo Germán. Germán would allow 4 earned runs and 4 innings pitched as he struck out 5 batters. He's now 0-2 on the season. Their elite second baseman, DJ LeMahieu, would go 1-3 as he struck out twice. Their elite right fielder, Aaron Judge, would go 1-4 as he struck out twice. Their elite designated hitter, Giancarlo Stanton, would go 0-4 as he struck out twice. Their elite shortstop, Gleyber Torres, would go 0-4 for himself. And for Tampa Bay, of course, Archer would get the start, and Kittredge would get his second win out of relief for Tampa Bay. Their elite right fielder, Randy Arozarena, would go 3-5 with an RBI and a run as he hit his first home run of the season. And then alongside him, Austin Meadows, their left fielder, would go 1-4 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 3rd home run of the season. With this win, the Tampa Bay Rays are now 4-4. They're now tied with the Baltimore Orioles for the second best record in the American League East as they trail the first place Boston Red Sox by 1 game. With this loss, the New York Yankees are now 3-5, sitting at the bottom of the division as they trail the Red Sox by 2 games. Jumping out to Minneapolis, the Minnesota Twins hosted the Seattle Mariners as the Mariners were able to pull off a win in the 10th inning thanks to a Mitch Haniger sacrifice fly to give them their 4th win of the season. For Minnesota, start would go to Michael Pineda, who would allow 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters. Of course, no decision would come out of that. Their elite designated hitter, Nelson Cruz, would go 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his 4th home run of the season yesterday. And then their center fielder, Byron Buxton, will go 2 for 4 for himself. For the Seattle Mariners, their starting pitcher Yusei Kikuchi would finish with no decision as he only allowed 2 earned runs in 6 innings as he struck out 6 batters. Mitch Haniger, their right fielder, would go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his 2nd home run for the team. And then their center fielder, Taylor Trammell, would end up going 1 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs. With this win, the Seattle Mariners are now 4-4. That is the 3rd best record in the American League West as they now trail the Angels and the Astros by a game and a half in the division. With this loss, the Minnesota Twins are now 5-3 as they currently sit on top of the American League Central by half a game over the Cleveland Indians. Jumping out to St. Louis, the St. Louis Cardinals host the Milwaukee Brewers, and in this matchup, the Brewers would score 5 runs in the 7th inning to get them their 9-5 win over the St. Louis Cardinals for their 4th of the season. For St. Louis, the loss will go to Carlos Martinez. Carlos Martinez would allow 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he only struck out 1 batter. And then St. Louis would blow it even further in relief after he was subbed out. Their elite first baseman, Paul Goldschmidt, will go 1 for 4 with a walk. Their elite third baseman, Nolan Arenado, will go 1 for 4 with a walk. Their future Hall of Fame catcher, Yadier Molina, will go 3 for 4 with 2 runs on the day for himself. And then their pinch hitting, their sub, the left fielder, Austin Dean, would go 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs and 2 runs. He hit his first home run of the season for St. Louis. For Milwaukee, the win will go to their starting pitcher, Adrian Hauser, who would finish with no earned runs, but still a run on his watch in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters. With this win, he's now 1-1 on the season. Their elite left fielder, Christian Yelich, would go 2 for 3 as he walked twice and he finished with 3 runs on the day. Keston Hiura would finish with his first home run of the season as the first baseman, went 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs and a run. And then their right fielder, Avisail Garcia, will go 2 for 4 with 5 RBIs and 2 runs. He would go on to hit his first home run of the season. And with this win, the Brewers are now 4-4. They're now tied with the Chicago Cubs for the 3rd best record in the National League Central as they trail the Cincinnati Reds by 2 games in the division. And with this loss, the St. Louis Cardinals are now 5-3. They hold the 2nd best record in the NL Central as they now trail the Reds by a game. Jumping out to Houston, the Houston Astros hosted the Oakland Athletics. The Athletics were able to pick up their 3rd win in their last 4 games as they were able to beat the Astros 7-3, scoring all 7 of their runs between the 4th and 8th innings. For the Astros in this matchup, the loss will go to their starting pitcher, Jose Urquidy. Sorry if I'm butchering the name. He would allow 4 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 7 batters on the day. Their elite second baseman, Jose Altuve, would finish 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. And then their right fielder, Kyle Tucker, will go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run. He hit his 4th home run of the season for Houston. For Oakland, the win will go to Frankie Montas as he would allow only 1 earned run on 6 innings pitches. He struck out 5 batters. With this win, he is now 1-1 on the season. Their left fielder, Mark Canha, will go 2 for 5 with 2 runs. Their center fielder, Ramon Laureano, will go 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs as he hit his first home run of the season. Their second baseman, Jed Lowry, would go 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs and a run for himself. Their elite third baseman, Matt Chapman, will go 0 for 4 as he struck out 3 times. And with this win, the Oakland A's are now 3-7. That is the worst record in the American League West as they now trail the Los Angeles Angels and the Houston Astros by 3.5 games in the division. And with this loss, the Houston Astros are now 6-3, sitting alongside the Angels at the top of the AL West, as both of these teams now sit a game and a half ahead of the 3rd place Seattle Mariners at the moment. Jumping out to San Francisco, the San Francisco Giants hosted the Colorado Rockies, and in this matchup, the San Francisco Giants would pull off a come from behind effort in the 6th off of a 3-run home run from Brandon Crawford to give them the momentum that they needed to pull off their 5th win of the season. For the Colorado Rockies in this matchup, of course, the start and the no decision would go to Chichi Gonzalez. Chichi Gonzalez would allow only 1 earned run in 5 innings pitched, as he only struck out 1 batter on the day, and that was before they gave up the 3-run home run. For Colorado, their second baseman, Ryan McMahon, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his 5th home run of the season. Their shortstop, Trevor Story, would go 2 for 4. Their elite right fielder, Charlie Blackmon, would go 1 for 3 with a walk and a run on the day. And then their left fielder, Raimel Tapia, would go 2 for 3 with an RBI on the day. Looking at how San Francisco fared, the start would go to their starting pitcher, Logan Webb, who allowed 3 earned runs on 5 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters, and Barriger would pick up his second win in relief. Their second baseman, Tommy La Stella, would go 2 for 3 with a run. Their left fielder, Alex Dickerson, would go 1 for 3 with an RBI and a run. Their main contributor on this side of the ball would be their shortstop, Brandon Crawford. He went 1 for 3 with 3 RBIs and a run as he hit his second home run of the season. With this win, and also their closer, Jake McGee, picked up his 4th save of the season, which is a lot of considering they only won 5 games, is a lot of saves. With this win, the San Francisco Giants are now 5-3. That is the 3rd best record in the National League West, as they currently sit a game and a half behind the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers in the division. And with this loss, the Colorado Rockies are now 3-6, tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks for the worst record in the NL West, as the Rockies now trail the defending champs the defending champs by 4 total games in the division. Jumping out to Cleveland, the Cleveland Indians hosted the Detroit Tigers and were able to pull off an 11-3 win, as Aaron Savali was able to pick up his 2nd win of the season. For Detroit, the loss will go to Skubal as he allowed 6 earned runs in 4 innings pitched. He's now 0-1 on the season. Their main contributor from the batter's blocks was their right fielder, Robbie Grossman. Robbie Grossman would finish 3 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs. He hit his first home run of the season. And Jaime Candelario, their third baseman, would hit his first home run of the season as well. He would go 1 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run on the day. For Cleveland, the win would go to their pitcher, Aaron Savali, who would pitch 2.2 innings, allowing only 1 earned run, striking out 6 batters. Their right fielder, Jordan Luplow, would finish 2 for 5 with 5 RBIs and a run, as he will go on to have quite the game. He would hit a 3-run home run for himself. That would be where he got a good amount of his RBIs. And he would go on to hit his 2nd home run of the season. Their elite third baseman, Jose Ramirez, would go 0 for 4 as he walked once. Their second baseman, Cesar Hernandez, would go 3 for 5 with an RBI and a run as he hit his first home run in the 3rd inning. Their designated hitter, Franmil Reyes, would go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run as Franmil hit his 4th home run of the season yesterday too. And then their catcher, Roberto Perez, would go 1 for 1 as he walked 3 times. He finished with 2 RBIs and he finished with 4 hits on the day as he hit his 2nd home run of the day. That was his only hit, his only appearance. And then also for the Indians, their shortstop, Andres Gimenez, would go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs on the day. With this win, the Cleveland Indians are now 4-3. That is the 2nd best record in the AL Central, as they now trail the Minnesota Twins by half a game. With this loss, the Detroit Tigers are now 3-5. That is the worst record in the AL Central, as they now trail the Minnesota Twins by 2 games. Jumping out to Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Pirates hosted the Chicago Cubs and were able to pick up their 2nd win of the season after picking up 7 runs in the 2nd inning. For the Chicago Cubs in this matchup, the loss would go to Zach Davies, who would only pitch 1.2 innings and allow 7 earned runs in that time, and his ERA is sitting over 11 at the moment following that performance. Their elite third baseman, Chris Bryant, would go 1 for 3 with an RBI. Their elite shortstop, Javi Baez, would go 2 for 4 for himself. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, the win would go to their starting pitcher, Mitch Keller, who would allow only 1 earned run in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 7 batters on the day. Their second baseman, Adam Frazier, would go 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their third baseman, Phillip Evans, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs as he hit his third home run of the season. Colin Moran, their first baseman, would also go 2 for 3 as he finished with 2 RBIs and a run for himself. With this win, the Pittsburgh Pirates are now 2-6. That is the worst record in the National League Central. They now trail the Cincinnati Reds by 4 total games in the division. And with this loss, the Chicago Cubs are now 4-4. They are tied with the Milwaukee Brewers for the third best record in the NL Central as they now trail the Cincinnati Reds by 2 total games in the conference. Jumping out to Baltimore, the Baltimore Orioles hosted their division rivals, the Boston Red Sox, and in this matchup, the Orioles would go into the 9th inning leading 4-3. The Red Sox would tie it up in the top of the 9th off of a ground out. And then the 10th inning off of a wild pitch, and then a Christian Vasquez RBI single, they would pull off their 5th win of the season. For the Baltimore Orioles, the start would, of course, go to Bruce Zimmerman, who allowed 3 earned runs in 6 innings pitches. He struck out 4 batters. For them, their center fielder, Mullins, would be the only player who registered more than 1 hit as he finished 2 for 4 on the day. For the Boston Red Sox, the start went to Garrett Richards, who would allow 2 earned runs in 5 innings pitched as he struck out 4 batters on the day. There's center fielder Kike Hernandez would go 2 for 5 on the day. Alex Verdugo would go 0 for 4 as he finished with 2 runs. And with this win, the Boston Red Sox are now 5-3. They have the best record in the American League outright, or in the American League East outright, as they now sit a game ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays and the Baltimore Orioles at the very moment. And then jumping out real quick, and then of course with this loss, the Baltimore Orioles are now 4-4. They are now tied with the Tampa Bay Rays for the second best record in the AL East, as they now trail the Boston Red Sox by a game in the division. Jumping out to Dallas, the Texas Rangers hosted the San Diego Padres, and the Padres were able to pull off a 7-4 win after Texas scored the first 3 runs of the game. For Texas, their starting pitcher would, of course, be Jordan Lyles, who allowed 3 earned runs in 4.1 innings pitched as he struck out 1 batter on the day. Their shortstop, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, would be the only player that really drove players in. He finished 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run as he hit his 2nd home run in the 5th inning. Big game for him. For San Diego, the start will go to Chris Paddock, who allowed 3 earned runs in 4 innings pitches. He struck out 3 batters on the day. Their center fielder, Trent Grisham, will go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and a run as he hit his first home run of the season. Their elite third baseman, Manny Machado, will go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a walk. He struck out twice. Their right fielder, Jurickson Profar, will go 3 for 5 with a run for himself. Eric Hosmer will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run as he hit his 3rd home run of the season. And then Jake Cronenworth will go 3 for 4 with a run for himself. And not to mention, their shortstop Ha-Seong Kim would hit his first career home run of his in the MLB. It would be a moonshot as he went 1 for 2 with an RBI and 2 runs. With this win, the San Diego Padres are now 6-3. And that is the second best record in the National League West, as they currently sit 1 game behind the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers. And with this loss, the Texas Rangers are now 3-5. That is currently the 4th best record in the American League West, as they currently sit 2.5 games behind the Los Angeles Angels and the Houston Astros at the moment. Jumping out to Toronto, the Toronto Blue Jays hosted the Los Angeles Angels and were able to pull off a 15-1 win after scoring 14 of their runs in the first 4 innings. For the Los Angeles Angels, of course, the first pitcher that would take this onslaught of hitting would be Jose Quintana, who wouldn't even make it through the first 2 innings, and he still allowed 5 earned runs on the day. Their goated center fielder, Mike Trout, will go 0 for 1 as he walked, as he would eventually get subbed out. Their elite third baseman, Anthony Rendon, will go 2 for 4 as he finished with an RBI and a run. He hit his first home run of the season for the Angels. And for Toronto on the day, the only run would go to Rendon. And then for Toronto, the win would go to Steven Matz. Outside of the Anthony Rendon home run, that would be the only earned run he allowed. He did that. He only allowed 5 hits in 6 innings. He struck out 4 batters on the day, and the save went to Malone, their relief pitcher. Tommy Malone would pitch the last 3 innings, so it was basically a 2-pitch performance. As Malone struck out 6 batters in 3 innings, he struck out more than Matz did. But I'll get back. I digress. Jumping to the Toronto lineup, their shortstop Bo Bichette will go 2 for 4 with 5 RBIs and 3 runs as he hit 2 doubles on the day today. He's now up to 3, and with his 5 RBIs, he now has 7 on the season. Their elite designated hitter, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., will go 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run on the day, and the right fielder, Randall Grichuk, will go 2 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run. Additionally, their third baseman, Santiago Espinal, would finish 3 for 5 with an RBI and 2 runs, as he would go on to hit his first double of the season as well. With this win, the Toronto Blue Jays are now 4-5. That is the 4th best record in the American League East, as they now trail the Boston Red Sox by 1.5 games. And with this loss, the Los Angeles Angels are now 6-3. They are tied with the Houston Astros for the best record in the entire American League West, as they sit 1.5 games ahead of the Seattle Mariners at the moment. Jumping out to Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves hosted the Philadelphia Phillies as they were able to pick up their 4th win in a row, which is a big turnaround considering they lost their first 4 games of the season. For the Philadelphia Phillies in this matchup, their starting pitcher would be Zach Eflin, who allowed 4 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 2 batters on the day. Their left fielder, Andrew McCutchen, will go 1 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs as the former National League MVP hit his first home run of the season. Their elite right fielder, Bryce Harper, will go 2 for 4 with an RBI and 2 runs as the former National League MVP would hit his first home run of the season for himself as well. And then for Atlanta, their starting the start will go to their young pitcher, Ian Anderson, who allowed 4 earned runs and 5 innings pitched. 5.1 innings pitched as he struck out 6 batters on the day. The win would go to Newcomb in relief as Will Smith would pick up his 2nd save for the team. Their elite right fielder, Ronald Acuna Jr., will go 2 for 4 with a run. Their elite second baseman, Ozzy Albies, would go 1 for 4 with an RBI and a run for himself. Their elite first baseman, Freddie Freeman, would go 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs and a run as the reigning National League MVP hit his 3rd home run of the season in his 3rd straight game. And their elite left fielder, Marcell Ozuna, would go 1 for 4 with a run. Alongside them, their catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, would go 2 for 4 from the plate. But with this win, the Atlanta Braves are now 4-4. That is the 2nd best record in the National League, considering they had started the season 0-4. They now sit 1 game behind the first place Philadelphia Phillies, who they actually face off against today, but I'll get back to them. And with this loss, the Phillies now are sitting at the top of the NL East by 1 game over the Braves. Jumping out to Phoenix, the Arizona Diamondbacks hosted the Cincinnati Reds as they were able to pull off an 8-3 win after the Cincinnati Reds took an early lead. For the Reds in this matchup, the loss would go to their starting pitcher, Jeff Hoffman. He allowed 3 earned runs in 4.1 innings pitched as he struck out 2 batters on the day. Their starting left fielder, Tyler Naquin, would finish 2 for 5 on the day. Their elite shortstop, Eugenio Suarez, would go 2 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs as he hit his 2nd home run of the season. Their third baseman, Mike Moustakas, would go 2 for 4 with a run. And then their center, Nick Senzel, would go 3 for 4 on the day. For Arizona, the win would, of course, go to their starting pitcher, Riley Smith, who would allow 2 earned runs in 6 innings pitched as he struck out 2 batters on the day. Their center fielder, Tim LaCastro, would finish 4 for 5 as he finished with 2 runs on the day. Their first baseman, Christian Walker, would finish 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run. Their third baseman, Asdrubal Cabrera, would go 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. He hit his 3rd home run, or he would hit his 2nd home run of the season. And then their third baseman, Eduardo Escobar, would go 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs and 2 runs. He hit his 3rd home run of the season for Arizona. With this win, the Arizona Diamondbacks are now 3-6. They are tied with the Colorado Rockies for the worst record in the division as they trail the defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers by 4 total games in the division. And with this loss, the Cincinnati Reds are now 6-2. They were the last team in the MLB to pick up their second loss of the season. Right now, they and the Dodgers are the only 2 lost teams left in the MLB, as they currently sit on top of the NL Central by 1 game over the second place St. Louis Cardinals. And then jumping out to Los Angeles last night, speaking of the only other 2 lost team, the Los Angeles Dodgers hosted the Washington Nationals and were able to pull off a 9-5 win, as 4 of the 5 runs for the Nationals came after the 5th inning. For the Washington Nationals in this matchup, the start will go to Patrick Corbin as he allowed 6 earned runs in 4.1 innings as he struck out 5 batters on the day. Their elite right fielder, Juan Soto, will go 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs and 3 runs as he hit his first 2 home runs of the season yesterday. Their first baseman, Ryan Zimmerman, will go 3 for 4 with a run on the day. Their second baseman, who subbed first base, Jordy Mercer, will go 3 for 4 on the day for himself. And then their catcher, Yan Gomes, would finish 2 for 4 on the day for Washington. For the Dodgers, the win would go to Julio Urias as he would allow 3 earned runs and 5.2 innings pitched as he struck out 3 batters. With this win, Urias is now 2-0 on the season. Their elite shortstop, Corey Seager, would go 1 for 4 with a run on the day. Their center fielder, Chris Taylor, would go 1 for 5 with an RBI on the day as he hit the only Dodgers home run. Their third baseman, Justin Turner, will go 2 for 5 with an RBI and a run for himself. And their right fielder, Zach McKinstry, will go 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs and a run for himself. With this win, the Los Angeles Dodgers are now 7-2. They now hold the best record in the National League West as they now sit a game ahead of the San Diego Padres, just to give a sense of where they stand. And with this loss, the Washington Nationals are now 1-4. That is the worst record in the National League East win percentage wise, and in terms of the playoff race, they now sit 4th as they now trail the Philadelphia Phillies by 2.5 games in the National League East at the moment. So that is what baseball is looking like following yesterday's games, and of course looking forward to what's going on today. Of course, starting with what's going on. Starting on with the primetime matchups, and because it is Saturday, a lot of the games are earlier in the day. At 1:07, the Toronto Blue Jays will host the Los Angeles Angels on ESPN+. This game will be in Florida. And then at 7:08, the Atlanta Braves will host the Philadelphia Phillies on ESPN as the Braves look to tie the Phillies in record. They'd look to tie their record with the Phillies with a win here after starting their season 0-4. They look to have a winning record in 5 games. Outside of the games that are on primetime, the Orioles will host the Boston Red Sox as Nick Pivetta looks to get his second win of the season. At the same time, the Pittsburgh Pirates will host the Chicago Cubs as the Cubs look to they look to give Trevor Williams his second win of the season over the worst team in their division. At 1:10, the Cleveland Indians are going to host the Detroit Tigers as Jose Urena looks to get his first start after his 15 ERA first start. At 1:10, the New York Mets are going to host the Miami Marlins as Marcus Stroman looks to pick up his second win. Also at the same time, the Tampa Bay Rays will host the New York Yankees as Jordan Montgomery looks to get his second win. At 2:10, the Chicago White Sox will host the Kansas City Royals, and the Minnesota Twins will host the Seattle Mariners. At 2:15, the St. Louis Cardinals will host the Milwaukee Brewers. At 2:35, the Texas Rangers will host the San Diego Padres, the current holders of the second best record in the NL West. At 4:05, the San Francisco Giants will host the Colorado Rockies. At 4:10, the Arizona Diamondbacks will host the NL Central leading Cincinnati Reds. And at 4:10, the NL West leading defending champs Los Angeles Dodgers will host the Washington Nationals as Max Scherzer and Clayton Kershaw face off in what looks to be a goated pitching matchup because both these players have GOAT profiles in my book. But with that said, that's what the MLB is looking like. And as we leave the North American continent for a second, just to take a look at what was going on overseas, I think it's completely fair to, of course, get started with the Premier League matchups. Starting off at the very top of the table, Manchester City faced off against Leeds United, and in a game where many people expected Man City to win, Leeds United would pull off a 2-1 win after Dallas would score 2 goals. And Leeds United was down a player for a whole half, too. With this win, of course, the Leeds United sitting ninth in the Premier League table currently at the moment. But with this loss, Manchester City is now they now sit 14 points ahead of second place Manchester United with 2 more games played than Man U. But of course, this gap is still pretty significant for them to kind of run away with the table. So this loss probably doesn't mean anything. And Liverpool hosted Aston Villa, and they were able to pull off a 2-1 win. Their first goal would come, or after Aston Villa scored the first goal of the game, Liverpool would score their first goal in the 57th minute from their elite Egyptian forward, Mo Salah. And then the 91st minute, it would be a goal from their elite their elite English fullback, Trent Alexander-Arnold, to win the game for them and give them the 3 points they need. With this win, they now sit 5th place in the Premier League as they are currently tied with West Ham in points, and they currently sit 3 points ahead of Tottenham with 1 more game played than Tottenham and West Ham. They currently sit 4 points below Chelsea. Chelsea's now sitting where they are after Chelsea was able to win their game versus Crystal Palace. Their first goal will come from their elite young German midfielder, Kai Havertz. They would get 2 goals from their American forward, Christian Pulisic, and then Zuma was scoring the 30th minute. But still, with this win, Chelsea would win. With this win, Chelsea sits 3rd in the Premier League at the moment, as they currently sit 2 points ahead of Liverpool, who are even with them in games. They sit 2 points ahead of West Ham, who could mathematically pass them today. And they also sit 2 points behind Leicester City, who's played one less game. But this one was a very important one for Chelsea and one that they definitely needed. Jumping out to the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich, the reigning Bundesliga champs, hosted Union Berlin, and in this matchup, it would end up in a draw. First, Bayern Munich would score the first goal from their young German midfielder, Jamal Musiala. And then alongside him, it would be Ingvartsen scoring, or not alongside, on the other side of it, would be Ingvartsen scoring for Union Berlin to, of course, give them the draw that they need. With this draw, Union Berlin still sits 7th in the table, and Bayern Munich still sits 5 points ahead of second place Leipzig. So they're comfortably sitting at the top, so it's not as though drawing has knocked them out of contention. Leipzig was able to beat Werder Bremen 4-1. And Borussia Dortmund was able to beat VfB Stuttgart 3-2. With this win, Borussia Dortmund now sits 5th in the table as they now trail Bayern Munich by 19 points total in the table. They trail Eintracht Frankfurt by 7 points behind, out of a Champions League spot. So of course this is not looking good. In Serie A, AC Milan was able to beat Parma 3-1 as they were able to hold on to the second best record in Serie A. They now sit 4 games ahead of Juve with 1 more game played. So of course that puts the pressure on Juve. And with 1 more game played than Inter, they now sit 8 points below Inter. So big win for AC Milan yesterday. And looking out to Ligue 1, Strasbourg hosted PSG, and in this matchup, PSG was able to beat Strasbourg 4-1 to pick up a very big win. Their first goal will come from their elite French forward, Kylian Mbappe. With this win, PSG now sits 2nd in Ligue 1. They sit 3 games behind Lille, but they're sitting right there, right outside, right in striking distance. Big win for them. Jumping out to La Liga, it was the second yearly installment of El Clasico. This time was in Madrid, and in this matchup, Real Madrid would beat Barcelona 2-1. Their first goal will come from Karim Benzema, their elite French striker, and then their second goal will come from Toni Kroos, their elite German midfielder. And then for Barcelona, their only goal will come from Mingueza off of a play started by Messi. But with this win, Real Madrid was actually able to leapfrog Barcelona, and now they're able to leapfrog Atletico Madrid for the moment because of the head-to-head. And now Real Madrid currently sits on top of La Liga temporarily. Atletico Madrid still has a game to play, but they have put the pressure on Atletico Madrid. This is the first time in any standing that Atletico Madrid has not been sitting at the top of La Liga, so this looks to be a very interesting season as it continues on. But that was everything that went on yesterday. And of course, the La Liga match itself was unmatched. Looking at what's going on today, starting off in the Prem, West Ham United will host Leicester City, and I usually don't mention those games, but Leicester City sitting third in the table, and West Ham is sitting sixth with a win here. West Ham can very well see themselves jump into fourth place, so this very well could be a 3-4 matchup in the Premier League if West Ham were able to pull off the win. At 11:30, Tottenham Hotspur will host Manchester United. Tottenham Hotspur hold the seventh best record. A win here could temporarily jump them back into Europa League contention, because that's how close this league is. And on the other end of the spectrum, Manchester United currently holds the second best record in the Prem, as they currently sit 14 games behind Man City with 2 less games played. A win here could do a lot for both teams, so I imagine both teams are going to play like they have a lot on the line. Jumping out to Serie A, Inter Milan will host Cagliari at 6:30. Inter currently sits at the top of the table as they sit 8 points ahead of AC Milan with 1 less game played. So not as much pressure on them to win, but of course a win would be nice for them. And then Juventus will host Genoa at 9 o'clock, of course led by Ronaldo. Juventus currently sits 4 points behind AC Milan with 1 less game played. A win here could move them to within 1. And then jumping out to La Liga just to show you what's going on out there. Atletico Madrid will face off against Real Betis at 3 o'clock, as this will be their last, or not their last chance, but with this win here, they can retain their lead on top of La Liga and jump back over Real Madrid on points. But with that said, that's everything going on for today, Sunday, April 11th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I will catch you tomorrow with another installment. Peace out. I'll catch you tomorrow.